What's cracklin', everybody? Welcome back once again to the definitive cereal tier list, where each episode we take a cereal, put it on the tier list, so you know how good it is. I'm your host Tucker. In this episode, we're going to be doing Kashi's honey toasted organic oat cereal. Now, originally, I expected I would not do like any of the Kashi sort of cereals till way later on when I'd kind of covered most of the stuff from Post, Kellogg, General Mills, Quaker, and all that. But there happened to be a whole bunch of these on sale, and I figured that's the time to pick them up. So here we are, doing some Kashis. This one, specifically, that we're starting with, looks to sort of be their organic take on the A-ranked Honey Nut Cheerios. I don't necessarily expect this to be as good as Honey Nut Cheerios, but I don't really have any sort of reference point for Kashi cereals, so maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. But let's just open it up, see what they got in here. And they even did the whole like heart on the front too. Like that's a very Honey Nut Cheerios thing. Okay. Okay, not a ton of honey. Yeah, I feel like I'm getting the like organic grain scent more than honey. Okay. So there actually are hearts in here, not just circles. So that's fun. Some little, like, pretty much exactly what was in the box there. Some little hearts. So that's different at least. They're much they're like flattened Cheerios, but like thicker as well. So that's kind of weird. This is gonna sound really negative, but it's not. It reminds me like visually of like nice dog food, but that's not a knock. That's just like the first thing that came to mind. So I don't know, worth pointing out. Okay, see how it tastes though. Expect it will be much better than dog food. Okay. Like with the scent, not a ton of honey flavor. There's like a little bit, but I think it's the oat that I'm mainly tasting right now. Decent crunch though. Like again, these are like sort of thick pieces, so that's expected. But yeah, not close to Honey Nut Cheerios at all right now. The oat flavor though is reminding me a lot of just normal Cheerios. So if there's a spectrum of like Honey Nut to normal Cheerio, and now it's much closer to regular Cheerio, which is a bummer because regular Cheerios not as good as Honey Nut, obviously, but that's kind of where this is leaning. Occasionally, I'll take a bite that sort of has like a vague taste of honey in there, but again, still not very strong. And unfortunately, it sort of seems like the dry pieces have that a bit more than the pieces that have sort of sogified, though these don't really sogify too bad because, again, pretty thick, so or at least retaining a bit of crunch. But yeah, the dry pieces seem to just have a bit more flavor to them. So it didn't start off strong, and it has not improved. So that's a bummer. All right, now let's see if the milk is going to have a bit more honey taste than the pieces do. Okay, that's like a bit closer to the Honey Nut Cheerios milk than the pieces have been to the Honey Nut Cheerios pieces. That's kind of nice. Yeah, like we did the multi-meal version of Honey Nut Cheerios a while back, the Honey Nut Scooters. Like if you had told me this milk came from Honey Nut Scooters, and just like that idea of sort of knockoff Cheerios, no offense, I could picture that in my head. So for some reason, that's a bit closer than the pieces themselves. So the milk is the standout for this bowl at the moment. Well, now we know that honey toasted flavor isn't as good as honey nut flavor. So unfortunately, I wasn't super into this. I think the oat flavor they had was fine because again, that just reminded me of a regular Cheerio. But the honey toasted aspect did not really seem to be too present at all in the flavor. So that was a letdown. And the pieces I thought texture wise totally fine. Like not a huge complaint, not my favorite, just kind of, serviceable. But they did at the end as they like again, they didn't like super sogify, but once they had gone through their sogification process, they did that thing where they're already kind of big, but they like spread out a bit, like those things that you would like put in water that grow, like that first sort of initial growth phase. That's sort of what was happening to these. So it was kind of soft all around the outside, but then in the middle it was still like a bit hard. So that was kind of weird, but not a huge issue, and only happened like really at the end for me. So just kind of an odd thing to point out. So what I'm going to do is give Kashi honey toasted organic oat cereal a D, the same rank as normal Cheerios, which I think again is the most apt comparison that we have. There's like a bit more flavor in here just because there is technically honey, but not really. So they at least have that over normal Cheerios. And this was a situation where it was bland, not bad. So I don't think it should be lower than a D at all. But it didn't really give me a strong first impression for these Kashi cereals going forward. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and in the comments below, post your general thoughts. Let me know if you've tried Kashi's honey toasted organic oat cereal. If you're a big fan of it, let me know if you think I didn't give this a fair shake comparing it too much to Honey Nut Cheerios, and you actually think this is more comparable or even better than Honey Nut Cheerios. You can let me know about that. I think I just said Honey Mutt, not Honey Nut, but you know what I mean. Or if you think I should hold off judgment on all the Kashi cereals until I get to a few more, because there's one that you think is super great, you can sort of give me a heads up. Don't give a huge spoiler, but just kind of give a hint at when I'll get to the Kashi that really does it for me. But until next time, stay delicious.